I don't trust politicians, and I certainly don't trust Keir Starmer. I know for a fact I'm not the only one who thinks that way, but it just had to be said. Hello everybody, my name is AJ. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Let's get into it. There are two things I really hate about politics. The first is the inability of politicians to answer the question, always trying to duck and dive, dodge and weave their way out of answering any straightforward question with a straightforward answer. Or in contrast, giving a completely different answer to a question that wasn't even asked. I mean, common sense would surely tell you that if you want to run the country, then you should be able to answer the basic questions, or answer difficult questions with comprehensive, clear answers. But for some reason, these guys choose not to do it, and it is incredibly frustrating. The second is that politicians more often than not do U-turns on their promises when they're trying to get elected. So they can say one thing during an election campaign in an effort to try and win votes, and then when they're elected to office, they will do something completely different and do a complete U-turn on what they said during the election, also known as broken promises. Those are just two reasons, and it almost feels sad to add to that list because the people in the state should be on the same side. They should be working together to drive the country forward. But I'm going to add to this list because it needs to be said. For our politicians and the people who are running the country, the world of politics seems to be a very lucrative game because they seem to be able to cash in on numerous freebies. Sue Gray, one of the Prime Minister's closest advisors and allies, her son was gifted a whole bunch of freebies, including Taylor Swift tickets and 10 grand in cash, and our esteemed leader Keir Starmer came under scrutiny for the more than £100,000 worth of gifts that he accepted. And believe me when I say that 100 grand figure is really saying something, because he is the only current serving member of parliament that has accepted gifts worth well over 6 figures. Let's have a look at some of these gifts he's accepted, shall we? Let's have a look here. 2.5 grand for football tickets, a further grand for football tickets, 800 quid for yeah, okay, this guy likes to watch football in style, because clearly these costs are right through the roof, aren't they? For one football match, by the way. Blimey. Let's scroll down here, see what else we got. Work clothing valued at 16 grand. £16,000 for work clothing. And he still dresses the way that he does? My word, that is astonishing. But £16,000 in a donation? And I really wish that was bad enough. I mean, just have a look at this. Multiple pairs of glasses valued at £2,500 for a pair of glasses. I mean, how far do you go with this? How open are you to this kind of sleaze? Accommodation valued at £20,000. I mean, look at that. What are you doing with that accommodation? You live in Downing Street. You got a nice house in North London. I mean, how much more of this cash do you need? Now, I would have hoped if there was any sense of decency left within the Labour Party, they would have called this out and said, we've got to stop doing this. Not just for our party, but for all political parties, because it can represent sleaze. It can say that you're open to any kind of donation from anyone. They scratch your back, you scratch theirs. So long as they keep funneling the money and the freebies in, you're open to do whatever they ask you to do. But it doesn't seem like that's happening anytime soon either, because the Labour Party seem intent on defending this.
In our country, there isn't a budget for the Prime Minister's clothes or his wife's clothes. In some countries, there's a substantial budget. I've just come back from America where there is a substantial budget to ensure that the US President and the First Lady, their appearance can never be challenged. That is not the case in our country. So it is the case that successive leaders of the opposition wanting to represent the country on an international stage and prime ministers have used donors to fund that budget. That is the truth of it.
No, it's not, Mr. Lammy. Remember where you come from here. You're a member of the Labour Party. You're meant to be representing the working man and woman of this country. Now, by all means, you've got to look the part when you're dealing with international business affairs. I accept that. You know, if you go to a job interview, you've got to turn up in a nice suit, shirt, tie. You've got to look smart. You've got to look clean, cut, trim. You've got to dress the part. I accept that. But you're also representing the Labour Party. And if you're representing the working man and woman of this country, how do you think they feel looking at their leaders in 16 grand clothing, saying, hang on a second, they don't represent me? Why are they walking around in this glitzy glamour clothing paid for by their rich mates when I'm stuck here in the pits or in my corner shop, wherever I may be? But let's say for argument's sake it's true, and that upon his election, Keir Starmer needed a complete wardrobe change after getting into office. Why on earth did it need to be up to £16,000 worth of clothing? Along with £2,500 worth of glasses, £6,000 worth of clothing for his wife, and all these extra freebies like these concert tickets, these extra accommodation venues. How did they factor into the equation? Why do they factor into the equation? And let me be clear here, I'm not just singling out Labour for this. I mean, the Tories are no better. They've been doing this for their entire 14 years of being in office. So this goes all around. This is a reflection of what the Westminster establishment is like. The former health secretary of the Conservative Party, Matt Hancock, during the COVID-19 pandemic, signed a whole bunch of contracts for PPE, only to find that £4 billion worth of that PPE did not meet the NHS's standards and has not been used. 4.7 billion was written off to reflect how prices have fallen since it was bought. 673 million was spent on PPE that was defective, and 2.6 billion has not been used because it is not the type or standard preferred by NHS staff. Both sides are just as bad as each other, and what makes it even worse is that they repeatedly try and defend their actions.
It is not corruption. It is not. It's giving a bone to the media who want to go for us, but it's got nothing to do with propriety. It's got nothing to do with ethics.
If there was nothing wrong, then why did they say, okay, we won't take any more?
Because they're fed up with all these headlines.
None of this is terminal. It just feels as though it's got a little bit messy, and messy a lot quicker than I think some Labour politicians even thought it would.
If we accept for a moment your basic premise, which is that this is all nonsense and tittle-tattle.
This is all nonsense and tittle-tattle.
Then isn't the bigger crime that you haven't, as a party, given us something more substantial to talk about? And that the first few weeks of Labour's government has all been about how bad everything is and not about what you're going to do about it.
How can it be tittle-tattle if it's the God's honest truth, Miss Thornberry? Alright, this is what has been reported. This is confirmed to be true. Keir Starmer's gone on the record to confirm and admit it's true. He's gone on the record to try and defend his actions. Why are you saying it's tittle-tattle if it's true? But do you honestly understand how bad this looks to the public, Miss Thornberry? In a time where we've got a budget coming up, and Keir Starmer has gone on the record to say the October budget is going to be extremely painful for every single Brit up and down the country. He's moved to scrap the winter fuel allowance for pensioners. While he's pocketing these hundreds of thousands of pounds, pensioners are going to be left freezing this winter. Do you have any idea how this looks? Your responsibilities as politicians and a government do not lie to your rich mates and donors. They lie to the great British public because they're the ones that elected you and hired you. I don't agree with everything she did, but Maggie Thatcher summed it up best for me. The state is the servant, not the master. Both Keir Starmer and the Labour Party went on record to say they want to try and restore and rebuild trust in politics.
Trust in government is falling. Trust in politics and politicians is falling. Trust in the media is falling. 2/3 of the public think that the way politicians act undermines democracy. 6 out of 10 people think politicians are likely to lie to them. 6 out of 10. Sadly, that doesn't surprise me, given recent events. But it does disappoint me. It frustrates me. But honestly, I'm not surprised. It's inevitable when we have a government that is misleading the public.
That's astonishing. That was back in 2022 when he was the leader of the opposition. And if you played that clip verbatim today, you could say exactly the same thing about Keir Starmer and the way he and his government are behaving today. Because the public do not trust him, and I for one most certainly don't trust him. He's doing the same things that the Tories were doing before, and he's not going to change that anytime soon. Sorry mate, we don't trust you anymore. If this was any other job in any other walk of life, you would probably be disciplined or sacked. Because at the moment the public have emotion and no confidence in you and your leadership. So I'll be very surprised to see what happens over the next few months. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below, let me know. Do you think it's okay the way the Labour Party and other politicians from all parties behave in this kind of way? Or should we stop it once and for all and end this sleaze? I'll be returning in the coming weeks with some more content, but until then, stay blessed, stay safe, stay free, have a drink on me, and I'll see you all real soon. Take care.